Hello and welcome to today's livecast. This is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and I'm coming to you with our weekly livecast, but also today is our special monthly livecast. It's May 4th, beginning of May, and so we have some surprises for you. Let's start out with the big one. We're here right now, so actually no, I'll start with the smaller one, and I'll come back to that. So the smaller surprise is that it's something that we actually have talked about a little bit in the past, which is consolidating all of the old card promos for Scythe and putting them in one pack on our web store. Previously, they were available from MeepleSource, and they still are available individually from MeepleSource. But just to make it easier for you, if you're new to Scythe in particular, and you don't have those promos from years ago, now you can just get them on our web store all at once in one concise pack. So that's the smaller news. The bigger news is that we decided a while ago to make jigsaw puzzles for Wingspan. And two people in particular worked really hard on this, and actually, really four people did. Anna and Natalia, the artist for Wingspan, they contributed their art that was already created, but they welcomed the idea of us making these puzzles. And Megan, who happens to be my girlfriend, but she is a wonderful puzzler. She's very good at jigsaw puzzles, and she was excited by the challenge of maybe designing a jigsaw puzzle. And Christine Santana, who is our graphic designer here at Stonemeyer Games, she added some interesting twists to the puzzles. So let me show them to you since you're here right now. There are three of them. The first one is the easiest. So they all scale in difficulty. This is a 500-piece puzzle featuring called Birds of a Feather, featuring many of the most colorful, well-known birds in the world that we've already featured in Wingspan so far. So 500 pieces. They're very colorful, which makes it a little bit easier to figure out which bird goes where, which piece goes where. And like all the puzzles, we've designed the height of the puzzle to match the height of the Wingspan box. So you can put these on your shelf right next to the Wingspan box. Also, one thing that you'll see in all these puzzles, and I'll show it to you in a different, well, I'll show it to you in this one, is that puzzles, when you make a puzzle, you have to put the pieces in a bag. And typically, this is a manufacturing thing, typically those bags are plastic. We wanted to reduce plastic, so we have no plastic at all, except for the shrink wrap that comes on these puzzles, which we're trying to reduce that as well. The puzzles come in a mesh bag. This was another idea that Megan had, of putting these puzzles in this mesh bag that is completely reusable. So you can leave the puzzle pieces in this bag if you want, or you can just dump the pieces out in the box and use the bag for something else, because it's a really nice mesh bag. Each puzzle comes in a different colored bag. So that's the 500-piece puzzle. I know there's some comments over here. I'll get over to the comments and questions in a second. Let me show the puzzles. The next puzzle. So one of the big things that Megan did was decide which birds would go into these puzzles, and she discovered that there are tons of ducks and geese in Wingspan. So the 1,000-piece puzzle is duck, duck, goose, and friend. So it has some other waterfowl as well. Blue background for the water theme. And as you can tell on all these puzzles, we included the bird names and the bird facts. They're really small on the box itself, but on the puzzle, they're a little bit bigger, much bigger really, so you can easily read the bird facts as you're putting together the puzzle. So this is the Duck Duck Goose 1,000-piece puzzle. And then finally, we have the hardest puzzle, the Birds of Prey puzzle. A lot of the birds of prey in Wingspan have a brown coloring or darker coloring, and so it's harder to differentiate between the birds. So if you want a real puzzle challenge, Birds of Prey is the way to go, and it is a 1,500-piece puzzle. All these puzzles, we've already made them. They're on our web stores right now, our 4 web stores in the US, Canada, Australia, and Europe. And so if you are a jigsaw puzzler or you know a jigsaw puzzler in your life, maybe your mother, since Mother's Day is coming up, feel free to pre-order it, and we're going to ship it pretty much right away. Depending on how many orders we get, it might take a few weeks to get through all the orders. But yeah, we have these puzzles in stock, and we're really excited about them. There are also some special shapes of puzzle pieces in these puzzles that you'll discover as you play as well. Let's see. I'll scroll through the comments now and catch up a little bit here. Some people are excited about the puzzles, which I love seeing. Let's see. Maxime says, will you start to reveal one Wingspan card in the next e-newsletter? You know, I was thinking about revealing the new Wingspan continent and one Wingspan kind of spoiler card, a teaser card for the next Wingspan expansion in today's e-newsletter. But after I put that e-newsletter together, I have it on my other screen over here. I'll be going through it today. I realized there's just a lot going on in this month's e-newsletter. So I figured I'd wait probably a month, pair it with the Viticulture World pre-order at the beginning of June. Maybe one more month after that. I'll have to see how I feel about that. That's why I generally don't. I try not to commit to things like that, because sometimes it was on the spot. I was putting together a newsletter and I was like, I don't want to distract from the Wingspan puzzles, the Scythe promo packs, the Viticulture World update. I'm scrolling down looking at the newsletter now, and then there are a lot of other updates even below that. So I didn't want to distract from all that with any announcement regarding the Wingspan expansion. So we'll probably do that next month. We'll see that next month, but don't hold me to it. It could be even 1 month after that. Yeah. And that is just a very small teaser reveal of the next Wingspan expansion, not a pre-order or anything like that. We are still in early production of that. Craig says, if I have a U.S. Stonemaier Games store account as a champion, but he wants to send a Wingspan puzzle to Australia, can you recommend the best way to do it? Yeah, Craig, I would contact Joe at stonemeiergames.com and ask him about the best way to do that. It is possible, but it will probably involve a little bit of manual work for us to do that. Not in a bad way, but just it probably will involve you placing the order and then us refunding you the 15% and doing all that from the Australia store. Yeah. Nathan says, some people see a Jigsaw puzzle. I see an open world exploration dexterity campaign game. For the 1,500 piece puzzle in particular, it might take a little while. Megan can do the 500 piece puzzle in about an hour. She's a very fast puzzler. The 1,000 piece, I don't know if Megan, can you hear me? What's your time, I think, for the 1,000 and 1,500 piece puzzles? So for Megan, the 1,500 piece puzzle took her a weekend to do compared to the 500 piece, which took her an hour. And so the 1,000, maybe a couple hours a day? She says a little less than a day for the 1,000 piece puzzle. So if you want to try to keep up with Megan's pace, you can do that, or you can just casually put it together at your leisure. Maybe inside your gaming table. You can put it inside the gaming table, and therefore you can still play games on top of the table while you're putting together the puzzle. Let's see. Chad says, could you show the special pieces in these puzzles, or did you want us to discover them for yourselves when you get the puzzles? I can show you. In fact, Joshua kind of mentions it right below. He says, did I spot egg-shaped pieces in the puzzles? Let me try to pull one out here. So yeah, this is one of, the main special piece type in these puzzles are egg-shaped pieces. And each egg is a slightly different shape or size so that there's no confusion about which egg goes where. I'm just scrolling. So all the bags are these nice mesh bags that Megan thought of. So they're completely reusable, no plastic needed here. Well, let's see if I can find an egg in here. So they're kind of like Easter eggs essentially, because there aren't a ton of them. Here's one. Here is one of the egg-shaped pieces in the Wingspan puzzle. If you can name this bird, you get extra points. See if you can name that bird. So yeah, there are egg-shaped pieces scattered throughout the puzzle. And of course, when there's egg-shaped pieces, that means that other pieces have to be designed around those egg-shaped pieces. The egg shape was Christine's idea, and Megan tested it. Megan has put together these puzzles, I don't know, 3 or 4 times total as we tested like different cardboards and things like that. Making sure the pieces were locked together really well. We ended up with a really high density, high quality cardboard for the puzzle. Cameron says, how many puzzles did you make? We made 3 puzzles, Cameron. Oh, you're talking about the quantity of the puzzles. We made a few thousand of each, depending on how many we thought we would sell. We figured the 1,000-piece puzzle would be the most popular, and so we made less of the other 2. I think there will be enough left for the Viticulture World expansion next month, but we never know. We haven't made puzzles before, so we really have no idea. And so we went pretty low, I would say, with the number that we made. Because we didn't want to make too many for a product that we had no idea if people even care about. So, but I think you have a pretty good chance of waiting a month. I can totally understand people wanting to wait until Viticulture World to consolidate those orders together. Yeah. Molly says that we've managed to channel one of her interests yet again. So Molly is a board gamer, a puzzler, and a disc golfer. So we've checked all those boxes so far for Molly up in Canada. And speaking of which, I know you didn't mention disc golf, Molly, but you made me think of this. We did already restocked the disc golf discs, but they sold out right away again. And so Innova has been really good. They have already made a second, no, a third batch total now, a second reprint of the disc golf discs, the signature discs. And they're on their way. They will probably be on our web store early next week in the US, which is right around the time that we might see that first restock show up in the non-US fulfillment centers. So if you want those disc golf discs, if you've been waiting to get them, and you weren't able to get them at first or in the restock, please sign up for a back in stock notification for the discs that you want, and we'll let you know the minute that they're back in stock. And it really should be very, very soon. They're on the way from Innova to our fulfillment center here in the U.S. in St. Louis right now. David says he's played Wayfarers of the South Tigris a few times on TTS. He says, I think you would enjoy it. No rounds, player-driven game length, and a big decision space. Are you backing it? I did back it. Yeah, I'm a day one backer of Wayfarers of the South Tigris. I mentioned it in my blog post on Monday, which was about Discord. You can read the blog post for all the different details, but the centerpiece of that blog post was that Shem Phillips from Garphill Games and the co-designer of Wayfarers contributed a lot of information about an amazing Discord channel that he runs for fans of his games. Discord has been one area that we've used kind of internally, but we haven't used it as a kind of a fan forum yet for our games. But after seeing what Garphill has done, I think we're going to give it a try. So I'm going to start working on that next week. I'm going to have some ambassadors test it out and hopefully sign up to help moderate it. And then we'll probably launch the Discord later this month or along with the Viticulture World pre-order in early June. That's the plan right now. It might change, but what Shem put together there has really been inspiring, and there's a full blog post about that on Monday on the Stonemaier Games blog. Kyle says, will there be a way to try out Viticulture World at Geekway to the West? Yeah, next week is Geekway to the West, my favorite convention here in St. Louis. And yes, Kyle, we donated 6 copies of Viticulture World to Geekway to the West, and yeah, you can play it there. We gave Viticulture too, so you'll need Viticulture and Viticulture World. They have them both in the play and win, so you can kind of check them out together to test out that expansion. Susanna, yeah, the little, I stumbled into something wonderful there that Susanna pointed out. The little egg piece that I held up a second ago is the chickadee, the bird that I think all birds are. That was pure coincidence because I just randomly pulled that out of the bag. That is great. Craig says, so Joe's email is joe@stonemeiergames.com. Craig, you can also just use contact@stonemeiergames.com. That goes to Joe as well. Carlos says he likes the Wingspan puzzles. You mentioned in the video that it was a little experiment, but it would be nice to expand to other games as the art in all Stonemaier games is amazing. How do you think the Jigsaw line will expand in the future? Well, it'll depend a little bit on how these sell. And something that you'll notice here is that we didn't want to do what I consider the easy thing, which is just to put like the box art on a puzzle. That would be fine. I think that's a perfectly fine thing to do. And I do love our box art for our games. But we wanted to do something, I don't know, we wanted to put together something cool that doesn't already exist, because you already know what the box art of our games looks like, but you don't have this image of all the unique birds together. So that's something that we might consider for our other product lines at some point, depending on how these puzzles sell. We don't have anything in the works right now, though, I'll say that. So it really is dependent on how this little experiment goes. And what would you like to see? Like along those lines, with our other games, what would you like to see beyond just like the box art on a puzzle? What collection of things would you like to see together on a puzzle? I think Scythe has some of the coolest art that could come together well, but it might look scattered to have Scythe art come together. All the Tapestry does have beautiful art too. Maybe all the civilizations of Tapestry on one puzzle. That could look pretty cool. Julie says that she became a Stonemaier champion this morning and ordered all 3 puzzles. That's awesome. Yeah, definitely the best deal to get for the puzzles, to save on shipping and to save on the cost of the puzzles, is to get more than one and to be a Stonemaier champion. You'll save 20% if you are a Stonemaier champion. So thanks for doing that, Julie. I appreciate that. Edward says, what does your design timeline typically look like? How long from conception to release on your average design? It's changed over the years. It really depends on the design. And I'll answer this for core games because expansions are usually much faster. my core game designs have ranged from, let's see, Euphoria was the fastest, but maybe too fast. Euphoria took about 8 months to design. Most of my games take between a year to 18 months. I would say averaging around 18 months for the full design and development process. Then they enter production, and so it's another 6 months after that. So it's about 2 years, I would say, from initial idea, when I really start working on the idea, really, to when we have the game ready for pre-order. About 2 years. That is sometimes ambitious. I've been working on a game now I've been working on for about 5 years now, and that's just the design, the initial. I haven't even gotten into the development stage of it yet. So sometimes games take longer. I have a lot of different responsibilities at Stonemaier Games, so design sometimes gets pushed aside for those other responsibilities. Yeah. Dan says he's still recovering from his surgery, unfortunately. Dan was kind of laid up with surgery last week. Had a great question about games that you can play when you're laying down or when you're bedridden, basically. And Dan said his birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Dan. He says he got Rise of Fenris from his husband and was very excited to get it started. Any advice for a great campaign? Happy birthday, Dan. I'm glad that's a wonderful gift. Thank you to your husband for getting you that gift. The number one thing that I would recommend for the Rise of Fenris is in regards to player count. And it's not necessarily the number of players, but just really, this is advice for any campaign game. Pick people who are genuinely excited about playing an 8-game campaign with you. And that's it. That's the advice. So you might just be playing with your husband. It will work great at 2 players. Totally feel free to do that. But if you've got other friends who love Scythe, who haven't played through the Rise of Fenris, they might be great picks to join the campaign as well. But yeah, I like that idea for a campaign game, to find people that really are wanting to buy into it. I've heard stories about like Charterstone, where people play a game of Charterstone and they're like, nah, I don't want to play this Euro game 12 times. And that it still works. Charterstone still works even if people drop out of the campaign. It's designed to drop in and out. But it's better if you get people who are really excited, really on board, and know what they're getting into. And in the case of Fenris, that's an 8-game campaign. Yeah. I hope you have fun with it. Let me know how it goes. Corey says, any recommended go-to beginner resources for disc golf discs? He says many campgrounds have disc golf courses. That's pretty cool. I would YouTube it, Corey. I don't have any specific videos that I recommend. I watch a lot of coverage on a channel called Jomez Pro, Jomez Pro. But that's a channel mostly for watching like tournaments, disc golf tournaments. And you can learn a lot from watching those tournaments, but they're not necessarily teaching you beginner stuff. I would just look on YouTube for kind of beginner tips for disc golf, and they'll show you how to hold the disc, how to throw forehand or backhand, things like that. Yeah. Barry says he's interested in the Scythe promo card. So one of the things that we announced in today's newsletter is a compilation of the old Scythe promo cards. These are not new promo cards. They're just compiled together for the first time on our web store. Barry says he just has the base game. Would these promo cards work with that, or would I need other expansions? They do indeed work with the base game, Barry. Yeah, you don't need any expansions for these promo cards to function. That's a great question. I often forget to mention that, but yeah, that's a good question. That any promos, I think, for any of our games function with any combination of base game and or expansions. Dominic says that he'd be happy to help with the Discord. That is very kind of you, Dominic, and let me make a note of that. In fact, Dominic, I think you have my email. Could you send me a note, a quick email reminding me of that? That would be a huge help if we could have a few Stonemaier ambassadors who are on board with helping with the Discord channel. I'm going to send out an email about that specifically to ambassadors, so you could wait to reply to that, but feel free to send me a note now if you want. Archer says, since Elizabeth designed the Wingspan game, does she also get a share of the royalties for these spin-off products, or only the artists? The answer generally to that is yes. Stonemaier Games does own the Wingspan brand itself, and so Elizabeth gets royalties for anything related to that brand as it relates to the Wingspan game design. So I'd have to check on, I don't have the file open right now that shows me which royalties we pay out. But in general, the answer to that is yes. It is a little different than for like Scythe. For Scythe, it's an intellectual property that we licensed for tabletop stuff from Jakob. So regardless of whether or not it's gameplay related, we pay Jakob royalties on everything. Whereas Elizabeth designed the game of Wingspan. And so it's stuff related to the gameplay itself like expansions, accessories that are used for gameplay, things like that. So the puzzles may not fit into that, but off the top of my head, I can't remember. Yeah. The XL Gamer says, I really enjoy the other items and things you sell on your website, like disc golf puzzles. What are some items you've thought of before but decided not to sell for various reasons? That's an interesting question. Things that we decided not to sell. One thing that comes to mind are what are they? Plushies, like plush toys. I've heard of some companies having success selling them, but that seems almost too far outside of the gaming space. It's just kind of a toy. That's the type of thing that we might do for an April Fool's product, but not necessarily a tabletop or Stonemaier Games product on an ongoing basis. There was something else. Oh yeah, I did have an idea to design a little cat bed that would go inside of a game box. So if you put the game box on the floor, you could put this little cat bed inside of it, and so your cat could sit comfortably inside of a game box. We haven't pursued that. That might be something that I do for April Fools someday, but I think cats are pretty comfortable in boxes even without a special bed inside of it. Jeff says, can you speak a little on the difference between Stonemaier and a larger publisher like Capstone? Your revenue is quite impressive, but your stable of titles is limited when compared to the likes of Capstone or CMON. It's an interesting question, Jeff. I think, I don't know a lot about those companies other than that they make a lot more games than us per year. And so I would say that's one of and I think they have a lot more employees than us too. CMON is also publicly traded, which I don't think Capstone is, nor is Stonemaier Games. But I think it just depends on a company's different strategies. Our strategy is to release only a few products each year, a few new games, a few new expansions, a few new accessories at most, and really focus the spotlight on those things. Companies like Capstone and CMON have had success making a lot more products every year, and CMON in particular also still focuses a lot on Kickstarter, which is different than us, and I think different than Capstone too. I don't think they use Kickstarter very often, if at all. And at last, I think both of those companies have a lot more employees. That's all I know, though. I don't know a lot more about those companies, other than I did play Ark Nova again last night, and I love that game from Capstone and our partner in Germany, Forland. Joshua says, could you commission a new art piece from Jakob for Scythe? Could be cool to see a huge scene with all mechs and airships. This reminds me, Joshua, there actually are puzzles for Scythe. Jakob created them years ago, and I think they're linked on our website. Let's see. Someone look on, if you don't mind, look on under Scythe and look under, I think it's like digital products and accessories on our website. And I think there you will see some puzzles that Jakob made and sold independently. And I think for that reason, we probably wouldn't do a Scythe puzzle because Jakob is already essentially saying he wants to sell those things on his own without Stonemaier Games involvement. Yeah, that triggered a little memory there for me, Joshua, that he's already done that. Chad says he'd like to see all the Scythe characters with their animals together on a long panorama puzzle. Arnie says that he likes the Tapestry Civ idea. Mark says, with promos for Rolling Realms coming out soon, which isn't necessarily true, Mark. We have them in the works, but I don't think we'll even receive the first wave of new promos until early fall. So I don't think soon is exactly the correct word there, but fairly in the fairly near future. In fact, I'll check on an estimate for that pretty soon. He says, are you considering extending the 3-round length of a game to a 4 or more round length? No, that's one thing I haven't considered. I have considered another format for the game that lets players choose the realms. But I haven't considered extending the game. I think 3 rounds is the right length for the game. Yeah. Chad says, are the puzzles going to be available for retail? Probably, well, almost definitely not for this first print run, unless they don't sell very well on our web store. But maybe in the future we might offer them to retail. But for now, the puzzles are just available from our web store. Yeah. Steven mentions that the Wingspan artists could create custom card decks with their bird art. That is true. Yeah, that would be an interesting discussion to have with the artists, to make custom decks of cards. Because that does fall very soundly into the tabletop space, which we have the rights for Wingspan. But Obviously, if we were to use the art, we would talk to the artist, talk to Natalia and Anna about it, and pay them either a flat fee or a royalty to make sure they're compensated for that. But playing cards, yeah, playing cards is a market that I have not really been interested in getting into because there are so many playing cards out there. But it's one of those things that if enough people were interested in it, if it really brought joy to people, that I would consider it. But it's pretty far off my radar right now. Yeah. Molly says, I would love a puzzle of all Stonemaier components scattered or spread across a table. That's interesting. That would be a tough photo to take, but I bet some photographer Tim Chuan could take a really cool photo and we could use that photo for a puzzle. It's an interesting idea. Julie says a viticulture puzzle might include images from the red and blue cards fleshed out as full people and incorporated into the scenery from the game as one big image with workers, visitors there. That would be an impressive image to put together. A lot of different visitors in the game now and a lot of different red and blue cards, your mamas and papas. And Jerry says it would be interesting to see a Stonemaier multiverse puzzle combining all of your IPs in a creative way into one scene. That is interesting, Jerry. Yeah, no comment on that yet because there's something that might intrigue you that we have in the works related to that. Matt says, is there a schedule posted for the next live Rolling Realms gameplay? He just picked up a copy and immediately ordered all promo packs. Thank you, Matt, for doing that. Thanks for joining the Rolling Realms community. I would say the best way to be active in it is to join the Rolling Realms Facebook group. That's where I go live. And currently my schedule is every 10 days. And so the next one will be, I think, next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then the week after that, I'll probably wait till Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm trying to cover all days of the week and to have a little bit of a gap in between so I don't get burned out doing it. But I think that's unlikely. I'm having a lot of fun with those live plays, especially in the little 15-minute increments. And they are all in the Rolling Realms Facebook group. So probably next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Benoit says, about the promo cards, the Scythe promo cards, will we offer them a la carte? We don't offer them a la carte, but you can get them a la carte from MeepleSource. So MeepleSource will continue to sell them. We were just selling a consolidated pack of them. Yeah. I know you mentioned shipping costs. I'm sorry about that. Shipping costs are higher if you're shipping from the US to Canada. For us, we're shipping from Canada to Canada. But if you buy from MeepleSource, I think they are shipping from the US. But the cards if you buy from MeepleSource, the cards fit in a really thin envelope. So hopefully that shipping cost isn't too bad. Archer says, two Scythe related question. Does the modular board expansion already include the board extension for its new board? Can I play with the big board for that expansion? Does the modular board expansion already include the board extension for its new board? So the modular board is its own thing. It isn't related to the board extension at all. It's just a completely new board on which there are also tiles that you put on that board. It is double-sided as well. So I would think of it, consider it as a completely different product from the board extension. It does not make the board bigger in any way. He says also, it's an Automa question, I may not be able to help out here, but he says, can I play Automa decks even for a two-player game? He's currently thinking about getting an extra Automa deck and playing two-player with a girlfriend and two Automas. What do I think? I don't know. I am not an Automa player. I'm just focused on the multiplayer aspects of my game. But I'm sure there's some people who are maybe listening to this who do play Scythe solo and have tried to play Scythe with multiple Automas, which I do believe works with Scythe. I think that is possible, but I don't know the details about it. Yeah. Bridge City says, as someone who is venturing into publishing, how long was it until you made Stonemaier Games your full-time gig? I started, well, let's see. I'll start with the Kickstarter. So the Stonemaier Games became a thing when Viticulture successfully funded on Kickstarter in September of 2012. I then ran another big Kickstarter, or a bigger Kickstarter for Euphoria in, I believe, May or June of 2013. A few months later, I started working 20% less at my day job. So I got paid 20% less, but I still had a secure day job. And that carried on until December of that year. And that's when I went full-time for Stonemaier Games in December of 2013. So it was about 15 months after that original Kickstarter, and there were two Kickstarters in between there, and both of them had fulfilled at that point. I think we were in the process of fulfilling Euphoria, but it was going very well. Yeah, that was the timeline for me. Brendan says, what's the Discord link? There is no Discord link yet. For the Stonemaier Games Discord does not exist yet, but we will announce it once there is a link in any newsletter, probably in the June e-newsletter. Nicola said, would I consider a specific Discord channel just for Stonemaier champions? Nicola, probably not. We polled champions about that, and there wasn't all that much interest from champions for us to do that. But I think we will have a champion section maybe in the Stonemaier Games Discord. We'll have to see how that feels, because Stonemaier champions are amazing, but they're also, other than being champions, they're no different in the ways that they talk about things and the information that they have as compared to other Stonemaier Games customers. So let me know what value you think there would be there in having a devoted channel or even a devoted server to Stonemaier champions compared to a Stonemaier channel that has just all of our games in it. I think almost definitely, I think we'll just have one server. It's going to be a lot for us to maintain even one, much less to have two separate servers, pretty much covering the same topics in between those two. Yeah. Frank from the City of Games says that pins work very well as a related accessory that sell well. That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't pursued pins. Tim does say that he would love My Little Scythe plush toys for his daughters. Chris says he's seen other board game companies sell puzzles. Were you inspired by one or more of these other companies to pursue creating the puzzles for Wingspan? I would say that maybe the biggest inspiration was, I forget the name of the company, but it's the same company that makes Cards Against Humanity. They started a spin-off puzzle company at the beginning of the pandemic where they made these kind of mystery puzzles that were pretty cool. I think Megan tried out a few of them. And they just did some interesting things with their puzzles where they created a sense of mystery around the puzzle itself. We didn't do that with Wingspan, but they were inspiring in terms of having some sort of piece in the puzzle that was thematic or a little different than a normal puzzle piece. Yeah. And just going through looking for questions right now. Dusty says, is it always really exciting to see a game go from digital proof to production copy, or does it become routine? Oh, it's always exciting to see a game emerge in final finished form. I'm going to stack up puzzles while I'm talking here. We'll see if these actually fall over and create a huge bang during the livecast here. But here are some of the Wingspan puzzles. But yeah, Dusty, it never gets old to see a product come to life in final form, including these puzzles. Tony says, how about a Charterstone puzzle of the game board, and people could write the names that they want to use on the different regions, just like the real game. That's interesting. You had to have a Charterstone puzzle of the board itself, and you can write on it just like a legacy puzzle, essentially. That's intriguing. Jeff says, does the designer's recognition or standing within the industry ever factor into your decision on whether or not to sign a game? I would say very little to not at all. No. I mean, if a designer I really admire submits to us, I will pay attention to that submission. I'll be very curious about the submission. I will say that. I wouldn't say I weigh it any heavier than other submissions, but it's always interesting to see designers that I admire, whose games I love, to see what they create. So on that level of curiosity, I am always curious about it. But I try to treat all designers the same, whether they're new designers or well-established designers, in terms of how I work with them, how I respect them, the amount of responsibility that I give them, and the focus on which we focus on their products if we make it at Stonemaier Games. Yeah. Dan says, okay, corresponding to what Dan asked about last week about a game that you can play when you're stuck in your bed. He says that he played a lot of the Crew Deep Sea Mission, which works really well in that situation. That's great. I'm glad that worked out for you, Dan. Let me jump over real quick. I'll come back to questions in a second, but I had some other news. I'm looking at my other screen right now. We have some other news in this month's e-newsletter. One, the Libertalia Dized, so D-I-Z-E-D, if you use their platform, it's web-based, it's also mobile-based. That can help you learn games. It's an interactive tutorial to help you learn a game. You can completely skip the rulebook and just learn the game from the tutorial. I've heard great things about both their Scythe tutorial and their new Libertalia Winds of Galecrest tutorial. There are links in the new e-newsletter if you want to try that out. Wingspan European Digital, tomorrow's the day, May 5th. That's when the Wingspan European DLC launches for Wingspan European. I actually don't even know if it's an extra purchase or if you just get it if you have Wingspan, the Wingspan digital game. I'm guessing it's an additional purchase, but we'll see what they do with that tomorrow. I mentioned disc golf earlier, how we do have more discs coming in. Early next week, I think they'll be available in the US, and they're on, the first reprint is already on its way to our non-US fulfillment centers. And they're probably sold out by now, but I did mention that Stillmeyer Games Design Day is, we have a few tickets left, or we had a few left when I sent out the e-newsletter. And this is an event that we hold every year. It's a one-day event here in St. Louis at Pieces Board Game Bar and Cafe, which I highly recommend if you ever come to St. Louis. And it's a one-day event where we rent out the whole space, and people can, not people in general, people who have signed up for the event and have tickets to it in a very structured way can sit down and playtest their games with a variety of other people who are interested in playtesting games. And we also play some published games and kind of analyze them throughout the day in small groups. So there's nothing kind of formal about the day. But we have that this year in October. And if you missed out on getting tickets, but if you're interested in attending this year, if tickets become available or in future years, please sign up for a back in stock notification on that product page. It's a really special day. I've really enjoyed what happens on that day, and the amount of creativity in that room is just incredible. And also, Pieces makes really good food and drink, so it's awesome just to be at Pieces. It's a great environment for playing games. What was the last thing? Yeah. Yeah, the book club. Yeah. So I wrote about, I think this was last week. I wrote about that. I'm going to try to host a book club for my book, A Crowdfunder's Strategy Guide. So this book came out 7 years ago. And what I wanted to try with the book club is go through it chapter by chapter and talk about which things I've kind of like changed my mind about, and which lessons still apply today that are in this book as related to crowdfunding and entrepreneurship in general, and to look back at some of the examples in the book and provide updates on them, and also hopefully provide some new examples of some of the things that I talk about in the book, because a lot has happened in the last 7 years. And chapter 1, we're going to discuss chapter 1 tomorrow, right here on the Stillmeyer Games Facebook page, in case you see another live stream start up tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central Time. You don't need to have read the chapter. You don't need to even have the book to join in. You can just join in and join the discussion about the book if you want, about that chapter, this specific topic. The specific topic in chapter 1 is you don't need to launch today, with the idea being that if you are scrambling to launch a project at the last minute, don't do it. And here's some reasons not to do it, and why to think about the timing of when you might want to launch your project. And so, yeah, that'll be tomorrow. We're going to experiment that, give that a try, and hopefully do it maybe every other week, probably on Thursday afternoons. So if you haven't read the book and you're interested in crowdfunding entrepreneurship, feel free to get the book, but you can also join in without getting the book at all. That's totally fine too. Yeah. Darren popped in to say that he has played Scythe with 6 total automas, and it worked fine for him. He says, the rules are in the complete rulebook. Okay, awesome. That is good to know. Thank you, Darren, for providing that information about automa. Arthur says, what changes between each side of the modular board if they're the same size? It's just the layout, like the configuration of different territory types is what changes on each side of the modular board. I think the rivers are in the same place. So it's mostly just the configuration of different terrain types, different territory types on the board. And he also says, do the encounters from the new promo pack, are they also included in the big encounters pack currently on the website? No, there's no, I would say in general for our stuff, there's no redundancy between things that we offer on our website. And if there is, then we are very clear about that on the website. But yeah, these are just the original promos that were released with the Kickstarter campaign back in 2015, and we've sold them throughout the years through MeepleSource. They just haven't been consolidated together. They are separate. They are different than the fan-made Scythe Encounters product, which is a completely separate product with no redundancy between these older promos and that pack. Yeah. Jeff has a lot of interesting industry questions today. In what way does Stillmeyer set trends in the industry? How often do you reflect on the impact you've had therein? I don't know if we really set any trends, Jeff. I don't know if I really think about us that way. Yeah, I don't know. I try to just do what I think is best for our customers and new potential customers. Try to bring joy to you, and if that ever rubs off on other publishers or other designers, that's cool. But I don't even know if I'm all that aware of it when it happens. I don't know. It's hard for me to answer that, but let's see. Or if anyone else, any designers or publishers are watching this right now, is there anything that Stillmeyer Games has ever done that that rubbed off on you a little bit, that made you say, "Oh, I want to try that. I want to do that thing that Stonemaier Games did." That's a completely egotistical question to ask there, but I don't. That's from me, but it's coming from Jeff's question here. I think it's a valid question to see what has inspired other publishers as related to Stonemaier Games. I know for me, I am constantly inspired by other publishers and other designers based on things they're using, like things that other publishers do in their games, like components they put in their game. How they structure their project pages inspires me to be clear and offer more information whenever we have a new product, including it actually inspired, there's an image on our e-newsletter over here that it was actually an idea from a customer, but I've seen project pages do this, where in a single infographic image, I broke down how to play Viticulture World. I wanted to break it down into one concise image, so you don't have to watch all the videos. You can just read this one image and understand how this expansion works, and get not understand all the rules, but get a good idea of how it works. So there's an infographic in our newsletter that shows that. Yeah, interesting question, Jeff. Really just hard one for me to answer there. Brendan says, how's the Tapestry neoprene mat coming along? Are there ideas for a viticulture one? I don't think viticulture needs a neoprene mat, but Tapestry I think definitely will benefit from the neoprene mat that we have in the works, because it'll include the arts track on it. It includes slots for picking up cards. I think if you're picking up cards off a table, it's a lot easier to pick them up off of a neoprene mat than it is a table or a board. So we have slots for cards on the Tapestry neoprene mat. I don't have the revised sample for it yet, but we have entered pre-production for it, and I should get the revised sample pretty soon. And the Red Rising neoprene mats are also in production. They're coming out. They're a little bit ahead of schedule of the Tapestry one, because we had the Red Rising one is literally just the board and neoprene mat form. Tapestry required some of these other additions to it to make it work. Yeah. Chad says, how often do you talk to someone who is new to the gaming world and try to talk them into giving it a shot with you? What do you usually say when you're trying to convince them to give it a shot? He said, I recently had this conversation, so I was wondering your approach. That's a great question. I wouldn't say I'm so immersed in the gaming world, the gaming community, that there aren't all that many times where I end up trying to invite someone else in who isn't already involved. I'd say the one time that has happened and will happen again this summer is at a family reunion that I attend. It's my own family. Part of the family. I attend this reunion, and I have kind of introduced board games to this reunion over the years, especially as Stonemaier Games has grown and this has become a huge part of my life. And really, I tried to start with very simple games and just see if they want to give it a try. And there are definitely some people in my family who are not interested at all in gaming. And I don't try to push it onto them. I completely respect that choice. And sometimes they even hang out like nearby while we're playing a game, but they don't want to play the game itself. And I found actually one game that works really well for that is Codenames. Codenames is very inviting to people who just think that they want to watch, but they actually find that they want to join in. They want to offer their own clues and advice. So if anything, I try to actually put a game on the table that I think it doesn't have much rules overhead at all, that's very easy to get into, and that might entice other people to join in and offer their own thoughts about it and even play the next time. Recently, I kind of did this with No Thanks. I think No Thanks is a good game for that as well. I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, Chad, because you're talking about more conversational. If you're just talking to someone about gaming, and there I might start with a theme a little bit, like try to see what themes they're into, or even learn. I think sometimes people don't realize that they already do play some games. They're just not tabletop games. They might play mobile games on their phone. They might play video games. They might be into sports. These are all types of games. And so I might try to learn about the types of games that they already play, but they don't think of as games, and try to relate them back to tabletop games in case they might be interested in trying them. Yeah. Bojan says, have I considered making something in the vein of My Little Wingspan that would be suitable for youngsters? He says he thinks the 500-piece puzzle would be great for them. And I agree, yeah, the 500-piece puzzle is great for a younger audience and for anyone who's just getting into jigsaw puzzles. We have considered My Little versions of a couple of our different games. We haven't pursued them yet, but I think it's possible that we'll pursue them in the future. Yeah. I think the key is to make it... my focus would be more on family friendly rather than kid specific friendly, because I want to make sure that we can bring joy to all tabletops through our games, not just kids. I don't say that in a pejorative way at all, but it's just I don't want to cast that small of a net for one of our games. I'd rather it have be a game that can really appeal to the whole family, which is really what we try to do for all of our games. But I understand there's a lot of text on the cards in Wingspan that may not translate well to little kids who are still learning to read. Yeah. Matt says he read on my bio page that I'm a fellow graduate of Washington University here in St. Louis. And that is true. Yeah, I'm still in St. Louis now. That brought me from Virginia to St. Louis, and I've stayed around in St. Louis ever since. Yeah. Chad is always great for the book recommendations, and he says, speaking of books, he started Waystation by Clifford D. Simek. Loving it so far. What's the hook for Waystation? I'll make a note about that. Waystation. Jeff says, do you relish being a public figure, at least to the extent that you are? What drawbacks have you experienced by making yourself so visible and accessible? A lot of great questions from you today, Jeff. Do I relish it? I used to think before Stonemaier Games that my vice might be fame, that I was excited about the idea of being famous, that I think I picture myself on giving like a TED talk, and I was like, I want a rapt audience listening to every word that I say, and I want that audience in front of me so I can see it happening. But what I realized is, A, I don't like public speaking at all. I really get very nervous about it. I don't enjoy it. And B, while I enjoy what's happening right now, for example, I love that we are having this conversation. I love that I get to talk a little bit. I don't get too excited about talking, but if someone's curious about stuff, if they're asking questions, I really feed off of that. I do enjoy that a lot. And it's kind of flattering and an honor that people would want to listen to anything that I say, because I truly do not think I am, that the things that I say are any more special than anything that anyone else says. So I found that I enjoyed that part of it. I have found that you mentioned drawbacks, that there are many drawbacks to being a little more visible than maybe the average person. There's definitely a microscope. There is like if I say something that's dumb, and I do say many dumb things, I have in the past, I probably will say them in the future, that a lot of people hear that and kind of magnify it and sometimes soundbite it or take a piece of it, who broadcast certain things that aren't the whole truth, or maybe they're just part of what I said. I don't know. It can spin out of control very quickly, and I found that as a huge downside. And so I kind of like whatever level of public figure that I am right now, I don't want it to go beyond that. I don't think I would enjoy anything beyond that level. Yeah. Chad says he thinks that Wingspan has had a huge impact on the themes of games to become much more nature-based. And that's true. There have definitely been some very popular games in the last year to come out. Meadow and Canopy and I'm forgetting the big one. What's the one that's based in the Pacific Northwest that's very popular right now that I enjoy. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. Cascadia. I think all of those games have been very successful in the last year. I'm guessing that all those games were in the works before Wingspan, but maybe publishers really took them seriously after they saw what Wingspan had done. And I think that's great, because I think those games have really taken off and brought a lot of joy to people, which is the whole point of this. So I don't know specifically like which nature games Wingspan has had an impact on, I guess is what I'm saying. But I'm guessing it has had some impact on publishers being more open to that type of game, and gamers being more open to that type of game as well. Not just, I think that there are probably some gamers that might have previously dismissed a game for being a nature theme, whereas now they're like, oh, okay, there are some really great, mechanically great nature-themed games out there. Tim says, I believe that other publishers started using that paper that you use for rulebooks after you, not that you were the first. That's definitely true, Tim. I have seen some publishers use the special, or special at least different type of textures for their rulebooks. And I love seeing that. I love different textures in games. And so if we were any inspiration for any publishers for that, that's really cool to see. I will say, as you pointed out, that my inspiration for that came from a game that I haven't even played. I haven't even felt the rulebook for, but I heard people talking about it, and so I became curious about different textures. And that was, I think, Monopoly Gamer, the one that has Mario in Monopoly. That Mario apparently has a really nice textured rulebook, and so that made me want to try that for our rulebooks as well. Tony says, did I see the other big announcement today the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. He says, is that technically 4 words? We'll call it 2 words. Um, I did not see that, but I was aware that Obi-Wan Kenobi is getting his own show in the very near future, and I'm excited about it. I'm not going to watch the trailer because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm definitely very excited about it. And I'm excited about the Moon Knight first season finale tonight, or today. We'll probably watch it tonight. I'm excited to see what happens there. Archer says, am I currently playtesting the fan-made factions for Terra Mystica? I did actually get to play my own faction on Terra Mystica, the Atlanteans. There's a fan faction that I designed for Terra Mystica. It's on Board Game Arena now. So if you play the Atlanteans on Board Game Arena, it's one that I designed. And see how you do with it. Let me know what you think. I played it and didn't do particularly well with it when I played recently on Board Game Arena, but I still had fun with it. Okay, Frank is here from the City of Games. I asked that question about have other publishers been inspired by Stonemaier Games anyway? Frank says, from my early days, you gave me confidence that I didn't need to release lots of games a year, but could focus instead on making great, high-quality games and release them less frequently. For which I'm very glad. Not sure if that counts as inspiration, though. On some level, perhaps, Frank. I love hearing that. I think in general, I'm excited when I hear that publishers are making fewer things and things that they really, really care passionately about, rather than trying to make as much stuff as possible. I'm less excited about that. I think that kind of dilutes the waters of my excitement when that happens. So I love that that was something that maybe you saw us doing and were a little inspired by. That's great to hear. And I love the things that you've created along the way, Frank. David says, would I consider republishing older games? The one that always jumps to mind is Glory to Rome. I have not played Glory to Rome, so I need to play Glory to Rome at some point to see what people love about it. We did do this for Libertalia Winds of Galecrest, and I would say the experiment, it was an experiment, and I think it would have to happen for a very specific game. The only other game that I've really, really seriously considered about that over the years is Ra, but another publisher already had the rights to Ra, and it's actually on GameFound right now. I am a backer of it on GameFound of the new version of Ra, and I'm very excited about that. So, David, I'm a lot more excited about creating new things, exploring new worlds, than I am about just creating a new edition of another game. And I now know that there are a lot of pitfalls that go into making a new edition of a game that I learned from Winds of Galecrest, that I don't know if there's a lot that I can apply from those lessons other than to avoid doing it in most circumstances. So there are probably other deeper things that I can learn, but that was my initial reaction after seeing some of the conversations that emerged from what we did with Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. Molly says that she's had some success bringing people into the board game world with Between Two Castles. It helps when a new person knows they're teaming up with an experienced player on either side. I love that, Molly. Absolutely. I think Between Two Cities is maybe even easier because it has fewer rules than Between Two Castles. But I love that idea of having, it's a competitive game, which people are somewhat accustomed to, but they have teammates, essentially, people who are there to help them out who might already understand the game. I also think cooperative games work really well for that. Another reason that I'm excited about Viticulture World. I think cooperative games are just a little easier to teach and invite people in because they don't feel like they're at a disadvantage as they might feel in a competitive game against a much more experienced gamer. Mark says, is there a My Little Blank? If there is a My Little Blank, will there be an accompanying promo realm for Rolling Realms? Yeah, our plan is for every new game that we make that there will be a promo realm for that new game. Chad says, so Chad's pitch about the book he just started called Waystation. Waystation features an interesting character whose job is to take care of a way station on Earth for a variety of visitors. Don't want to spoil too much. That's a great teaser, Chad. You're good at writing these teasers. I like that. I'm intrigued now. I want to check that out. I am reading a book right now called The Hunger of the Gods, which is the second book in a Viking trilogy of books that I'm really enjoying. The third book isn't complete yet, so it's an in-progress trilogy. It's intense, it's gritty, but it's really cool. It's called The Hunger of the Gods. That's the second book. And it reminds me that I saw one of the best movies that I've seen in a long time recently, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. We saw this in the theaters because I'd heard such great things about it. And I would highly, highly recommend it. It was really just an incredible film on so many levels. I don't even want to spoil much about it, but it has great action. It has really great heart, and it's absurdly funny. Like has a great sense of humor to it. So it's like everything in a movie that I would ever want, and it delighted me. It's one of these movies where I went in with fairly high expectations, and it vastly, vastly exceeded those expectations, even though they were already high. So that's Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I think it will remain in theaters for a while longer, but I know there's a big Marvel movie coming out this weekend that also I think a lot of people will see. And so if you, I don't know, if you, I would just recommend seeing it. I'll leave it at that. I recommend seeing Everything, Everywhere, All at Once if you get the chance to see it. J-Ro says, will there ever be more expansions for Tapestry? I don't know yet. It's something that we're considering, but I wouldn't say for sure either way at this point. Nothing that we've announced for sure. Let me see other quick topics here as we draw close to the end here. Molly says that she won round 1 of a fan factions tournament with the Atlanteans. That's awesome. Thanks for playing my fan-made realm, or fan-made faction there, Molly. Shani says, would I consider a cooperative version of Wingspan? I think the question is more, would Elizabeth consider a cooperative version of Wingspan, similar to what we did with Viticulture World? If Elizabeth ever wants to do that with an expansion, it wouldn't be a standalone game, but it would be an expansion for Wingspan. I'm totally on board with that. It's definitely something that we've talked about in the past, but I would put that up to Elizabeth. So things that I played recently, I played Star Realms and Shards of Infinity kind of back to back with Megan over the weekend. We had fun with that. I played Arc Nova yesterday. I had a great chat with the channel, the podcast Deus Ex Machina just yesterday. Chris and Paco over there had a great chat with them. My good friend Miles Bensky here in St. Louis, also Red Rising artist Miles Bensky, and cover artist for Rolling Realms artist Miles Bensky, got his first disc golf ace on Sunday morning, and it was awesome to witness. I would say it's just as exciting to witness a friend's ace as it is to get your own ace in disc golf, or very, very close. And congratulations to Miles for hitting that ace. It was a beautiful shot. I also had fun at disc golf. I think it was my first ever even day. I don't think I've ever finished at 0 par before. And so maybe the next step is to finish under par. We'll see if that can happen. I don't know if I'm good enough to do that yet. Anything else? Book club tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central. My video this past weekend was about the BGG top 21 through 30 games, which since filming that video, a game has not only entered the top 21 through 30, but has also left the top 21 30 and entered the top 11 through 20. And that is Arc Nova. Arc Nova has raced up through the charts. I think justifiably so. I'm still loving Arc Nova and had fun teaching and playing it last night. But yeah, pretty cool to see that happen. And actually the video kind of still works now because Arc Nova changed it. Although I guess since Arc Nova entered it, a new game left. Since Arc Nova entered and left, then a new game must have made its way into the top 21 through 20. What game just made? I'll look it up real quick. So Arc Nova is now number 19. So it bumped Concordia into the top 21 through 30. So Concordia won't appear in that video. But Concordia does appear in a previous video that I made about the BGG top 11 through 20 games. I also talked about the Legends of Sleepy Hollow on a video just the other day. And what else? I think that's about it for the topics that I have. And I covered the topics in the e-newsletter. Yeah, I think all the stuff over here is covered, mostly about the puzzles today and the new Scythe promos, or not the new Scythe promos, the new consolidation of old Scythe promos into one pack. Yeah, I think that's the main news for this month. And Jeff mentioned that there is a great cooperative variant of Wingspan already on Board Game Geek in case anyone wants to try that. Archer says, what do I think about PAX Premier? How many plays under your belt? I've only played PAX Premier once. That was fairly recently. PAX Premier second edition, played it for the first time. And I have a video coming out about it on May 17th. So I'm a little bit ahead of schedule for my videos, but I do have a video coming out about PAX Premier and my favorite mechanisms in that. I don't even remember. Let's see what I marked as my favorite mechanism. I said that my favorite mechanism was the nation player separation. How you are not the units on the board. You are kind of manipulating them in the way that Way of Whispers does. And I will say, Arthur, I have a lot of respect for PAX Premier. I'm glad I played it. But if I wanted to play that style of game again, where I am kind of manipulating the things that are happening on a map, I would definitely play Way of Whispers again. That would be definitely my choice between those two games. I think they're fairly similar in that way. and in some of the other mechanisms as well. And I would go for Way of Whispers. So if you like Pax Mirror, I would also recommend the is it War of Whispers, not Way of Whispers, War of Whispers. I'd recommend that. I think we have reached the end of the comments today and the end of the questions, end of my topics. So I'm going to go ahead and put this. Thank you, David. Yeah, War of Whispers. I'm going to go ahead and put this on YouTube. Thank you for joining me today. Go check out the Wingspan puzzles if you haven't already. For you, if you're a puzzler, or I'm sure you know someone who loves puzzles or loves Wingspan, it's a great Mother's Day gift, I think. That's one of the reasons that we launched it today, right before Mother's Day. Go check it out. It's on our web store. And yeah. Jerry pointed out that short round from Indiana Jones is the male lead of Everything Everywhere All at Once. That is awesome, Jerry. He has probably my favorite moment in the film. I didn't know that he was that actor, but he has I think my favorite moment in that film. Incredible moment. Oh, Chris reminds me, I almost forgot my chocolate of the day. What is my chocolate of the day? Probably I don't know. I have some dark chocolate over there. I'll say it's dark chocolate today. Yeah. War of Whispers. Yes, that's the game I was talking about. All right, I'm going to take off, get some lunch. Have a great day, great Wednesday, and I will see you all. I will see some of you at the book club tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central. The rest of you, I will see next Wednesday at the same time. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.